The Tuskegee Airmen were the first group of African-American aviators to serve in the United States Armed Forces, and while they were discriminated against both within and outside of the Army, they are known today as some of the best pilots of World War II. During World War II, black Americans in many U.S. states were still subject to the Jim Crow laws, and the American military was racially segregated, as was most of the federal government. When he was running for a third term as U.S. president in 1940, Franklin D. Roosevelt promised to allow blacks to become military pilots. The War Department agreed to do that, but with the understanding that the black military pilots would be trained on a segregated basis and serve in their own segregated units. The Tuskegee program began officially in June 1941 with the 99th Pursuit Squadron at the Tuskegee Institute and Air Base. The unit consisted of 47 officers, 429 enlisted men, and was backed by an entire service arm. Tuskegee was chosen as the place for the first black military pilot training because Tuskegee Institute had already been training black civilian pilots. Tuskegee Institute lobbied for the contract to operate a primary flight school for black pilots. The region had more days of good flying weather than any other part of the country, and the area already had a segregated environment which was consistent with the segregated training. The name Tuskegee Airmen applied to not only the men who flew the fighter planes, but also the navigators, bombardiers, mechanics, instructors, crew chiefs, nurses, cooks, and other support personnel for the pilots. By April 1943, the 99th were finally considered ready for combat and were shipped out to Paris. By the end of February 1944, more graduates were ready for combat, and the all-black 332nd Fighter Group had been sent overseas with 3 fighter squadrons, the 100th, the 301st, the 302nd, and later to join the 99th.
The drone of aircraft engines echoes through the skies of central Germany. A bomber train of 200 B-17 Flying Fortresses descend on Germany, targeting a tank assembly plant in Berlin. Mustangs of the 332nd Fighter Group fly escort. Just outside Berlin, the Red Tails are scheduled to be relieved by another unit, the 31st Fighter Group.
Turned out that they got caught in the weather. We were told, keep on to target. We had enough fuel, barely, to get back.
The 332nd stays with the bombers. But as they near the target, the Americans spot the distinct contrails of twin-engined ME-262s.
All of a sudden, we began to hear bogeys. And that's where we began to see streaks up in the air. We were flying about 24, about 26. These streaks going out. I said, oh, shit. So in my case, I said, be alert, be alert, be alert. I'm taking over.
Roscoe Brown and his men are all that stand in their way. Without a moment's hesitation, Brown calls drop tanks and turns to engage, flying headlong into the fight. Now, Roscoe Brown has sighted another flight of 262s, threatening the bomber stream he's charged to protect.
When you have to decide what you're going to do and where you're going to do it, you're going as a fighter pilot. It's all reaction. I knew it was a jet. I knew it was fast. I knew what I had to do. I said, let's go. You don't internalize. There's no analysis there.
Brown and his flight are here. The Germans are here.
Well, I developed a little thing where I would pull up, give it full power, pull it way up, stick back, right rudder, and then flip it. Boom, go down. And you have almost a stalling point. So when I flip and push it down, the speed increases, and then I would pull it back up.
The move is a modified split S that gives Brown an extra boost of speed while putting him on an intercept course with the 262s.
When I came out of split S, I could see him. He was coming up. And this is within a fraction of a second.
Roscoe Brown seizes the opportunity. The German jet flames, shedding debris before the pilot bails out. It's a confirmed victory. The third ME-262 down that day.
But it wasn't over then. Because I made these radical moves and he's gotten this guy, I had, in a sense, lost my wingman. My wingman was chasing somebody else. When I'm up over Berlin, 25,000 feet, and I'm looking around for somebody to join. And I see this P-51 silhouette about 12 o'clock. I said, look, I didn't have radio contact. I didn't know who he was. I said, look, let me join you.
Roscoe Brown moves in closer to what he believes to be a friendly P-51.
So as I started making the circle, I saw that the P-51 had a German cross on it. We knew that the Germans had captured some P-51s and were infiltrating some of the formations to try to get closer. And so I said, well, let me go get him.
Brown goes on the attack. But the German takes evasive action. Brown pulls the stick in tight, straining to pull lead on his enemy.
So So I started pulling tight, tight, tight. I'm gaining on him. And then I looked at my fuel gauge. My fuel gauge was a little bit below half. I said, well, I got two things to do. One, I can get this guy and get this victory and parachute and hope they don't kill me. Or the other, I can say bye-bye and go home. So I said, look, I'll let him go, firewalled it, get it back south, and I flew about 700 miles by myself over enemy territory.
One of the major achievements that made the Tuskegee Airmen so popular was their good bomber protection rate, only losing a total of 27 bomber planes throughout their squadron's career, compared to the average 47 from other squadrons. Flying escort for heavy bombers, the 332nd earned an impressive combat record. The Allies called these airmen Red Tails, or Red Tail Angels, because of the crimson red paint on the tail of their planes. Today, with close to 300 airmen still alive, the Tuskegee Airmen are remembered in countless pop culture television shows and movies.